Hi everyone, welcome to yet another of the Obizz podcast series. As you know by now, we're all about spreading wisdom on physical health issues, verified data. That there's a lot of we're inundated with data, especially with the pandemic. So we share that through our COVID Kenya channel. We also try to spread awareness on wellness issues because, as well as physical health, mental health is also very important now. And then, of course, as you've seen before, on topical issues on business and the economy as well. Today, I think it's the first of our series where we're focusing on the second item, which is on wellness, which is something that we sometimes or many times tend to ignore. We're always focused on the physical issues regarding wealth, but of course the mental side is very important. And I'm very pleased to welcome a professional in this area, Aleema Noormohammed. It's Aleema. My apologies. Yeah. Aleema Noormohammed. So welcome, Aleema, to our podcast series, and thank you for sparing the time to share the expertise that you've developed in this field. You are an expert in NLP, in timeline therapy, mindfulness coach, and also outdoor therapy.
Yes.
Which are some terms that I actually haven't heard before. So it'll be good to explore over the next few minutes on what each of these mean. But to kick off, maybe, Aleema, take us through your journey. How have you ended up in this field?
So my trade is, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast.
Welcome.
And so I come from a background of hospitality, and I realized that I could connect to people, talk to people. I've been in that background for about 10 years in that field. And there was just something missing constantly.
Right.
Because every time you connect with somebody and hospitality is just different. It's like, okay, yes, I've made your day, your vacation is great, but there was something more that I wanted. And then I stumbled upon NLP, which is neuro-linguistics programming.
Okay.
Because somebody was talking about it, and there was something that happened during my time in hospitality that allowed me to take interest in it. So I got qualified about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And that has helped me myself get through a very traumatic event that I experienced about 2 years ago. I lost my dad 2 years ago.
Right.
And it was a sudden loss, it was a tragic accident, and that would have just taken me completely, I think, underground. But with the knowledge that I have with NLP, it has really grounded me, and it has kept me real. It has kept me in the moment, being able to observe my thoughts, being able to understand what's going on, and even allowing myself to reprogram, because that's what NLP is about. So it stands for neuro-linguistics programming.
Okay.
The neuro part is your emotions, your behavior of your nervous system. The linguistics part is your language.
Okay.
And then programming is programming of the mind.
Right.
So when you look at it as a whole, you are now able to see the thoughts that go on in your mind and just kind of change them so that it empowers you instead of pulls you down. So that really helped me get through the loss of my dad.
Wow, that sounds like a very powerful tool.
It's very powerful.
So I understand the neural part and the programming part, but
Yes.
what does language have to have?
Because in our mind, we are constantly talking to ourselves.
Right.
And we use language that puts us down. So now this is not for me, this is now in general now. People, since they were children, maybe their parent or somebody in school said, you're terrible at maths, you will never succeed.
Yeah.
That's the language that the child has now taken in and has been ingrained in what we call the subconscious mind, which is the other part of our brain that's actually 95% active.
Yeah.
We only use 5% of our brain. The rest of our body and our communication happens unconsciously. And so as a child, when we go through these kind of experiences, the mind records that. And as this child grows up, all he remembers is, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I will never succeed.
Right.
And so what NLP does, it gives you the opportunity to tell this child, this was something that happened many years ago. Let's turn that around. What if we said you will succeed? Obviously, there's a whole process that you take them through.
Sure.
But then that's now reprogramming that
Okay.
to make them more positive and empowering for the
Right.
child.
So, Aleema, this sounds like a very powerful tool. And
Yes.
with the pandemic, many of us have reprogrammed ourselves in various ways we do things. So, for example, Zoom is become a really powerful tool, and we all adapted to it. So tell us practically, and of course, with the pandemic, and unfortunately, we're here almost beginning of November, and while we thought that there was light at the end of the tunnel, we're now all seeing a second wave. So a lot of anxiety in people in terms of they cannot as soon as possible get back to normality. I think we need to live with what pandemic has shown us, learn to live differently, adapt ourselves, not only with our businesses and our professions, but also personally. There's a lot of anxiety. So practically, how can one use NLP to make themselves better to deal with this pandemic?
Okay, so I would actually use the tools of mindfulness in this case to deal with the pandemic.
Okay.
Because NLP is a whole process that you actually go through with the coach on a one-on-one basis or in a group setting.
Right.
But the practice of mindfulness can now be something that people can put immediately. And because what tends to happen, especially now with this pandemic, people are living in the future. There is fear, there is anxiety, because they're thinking, what if I never get my job back? Or what am I going to do? Rent is due and I have nothing coming in. How am I going to deal with this? These are just some of the small examples that are consistently going through people's minds.
Okay.
The other thing that's going through people's minds is the past. They're like, I wish this had never happened. So they continue to live in the past.
Right, right.
And so what they need to do is be focused in what is happening right now. They need to be present in the present moment. They need to be living here in the now in order to not feel the anxiety, in order to not feel the fear, in order to not feel the depression, because those events have happened. You can't do anything about it. And the fear and anxiety is an event of the future. Like, is it really real? It's not real. The only real moment is here.
This is a big change in human behavior.
Yes.
So what are the tips or the skills one needs to develop in order to change that behavior?
So it's
and
really,
how do they do it?
It's the skill of just silence. Finding 2 minutes, maybe every 3 hours, 2 minutes in the middle of your day, to just ground yourself by using your breath. Breath is a huge anchor in this whole process. It's available for free to anyone. You don't have to do anything. Most people are not even aware of their breath. It's so automatic.
Right.
But it's the only thing, and your body, these are the only things that are in the present constantly.
Okay, so what you're saying is one doesn't need to take out 1 hour of the day, wake up early and do that yogi meditation. There are other tools that people can use throughout the day.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
I mean, the meditation 1 hour in the morning is a fantastic way to start your day.
Yes.
But with mindfulness, and this is the beauty about mindfulness, is you can do it whilst you're eating.
Okay.
So be mindful about what's in your plate. Just observe the colors and the smells and activate your senses.
Okay.
And when you activate your senses, it really grounds you in the present moment. And even when you're brushing your teeth, for example, just be very aware of of each tooth you're brushing.
Right.
Be aware of the texture of your brush. Be aware when you're drinking the water and when you're gargling. That awareness breaks that autopilot, because we live in autopilot mode. But when you start to bring this awareness into the moment in any activity, walking, as I said, eating, brushing, driving, just that is now the tool that will help you decrease your anxiety levels.
Okay, those are good tips. And if one needs to learn more specific tips, where does one look?
Honestly, there's so much information also online.
Okay.
If if you search on Google, on YouTube, all sorts of information pops up
on mindfulness.
On
right?
mindfulness,
okay.
Or people can even get in touch with coaches. There's so many coaches in town.
Okay.
I do mindfulness coaching, for example.
Right.
And but it's, if you want that personal connection, if you want somebody to guide you, that's what people can do.
Okay. Then what about timeline and outdoor therapy? What is that? So is that sort of the next level up?
So these are different tools of the whole coaching area. So timeline therapy is it's part of the NLP practitioner, and what it does is it takes you. Timeline therapy actually deals with a lot of past traumas.
I see.
So people who have, like that example I gave you about the child earlier. Sometimes people have traumas that they've brought in from the womb. Like it goes that deep where you put somebody in. It's not really a trance. You just kind of take them back to their past life. Along their timeline, and you guide them. So I guide them through a series of questions and ask them, okay, when did this happen to you? And your subconscious has stored every single experience of your life, and that is completely it's in the back of your mind. And when you, as a coach, when I ask you, I'm going to speak to your subconscious mind, you give me permission, and then the first answer that pops up is usually the answer we go with. And you'd be surprised, people don't remember memories, and that pops up when we're doing timeline therapy.
Okay.
And the point of that is to look at that and see what can I learn from this? And then that helps you release any blocks, release any negative emotions you've had about yourself, and it clears everything to allow you to now move forward.
And is this something that one has to do with a professional, or can they do with a trusted friend or a family member?
No, it's something they have to do with a professional.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And what about outdoor therapy?
So outdoor therapy, now one thing I didn't tell you earlier is I'm an adventure junkie. I love the outdoors.
Right.
I've been in, outdoors has been a part of my life since I was a child.
You do skydiving.
I do skydiving, I do rafting, anything, you name it.
Okay.
And what I've realized is that every time I find myself outdoors, there is this sense of freedom. There's a connection to nature that I don't feel anywhere. And even for people who are not so big on outdoors, they'll just go out for a walk. Like, let's say they go to Karura for a walk. And if you ask them, so how was that? They're like, wow, it was so peaceful.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we're so blessed here in Nairobi to have that, at our doorstep.
Yeah.
And that's something that, people should utilize.
People should utilize, and people don't. It's like, oh, it's been raining, I don't want to be out in the mud.
Right.
But this is now, ask yourself, when you go outside, why is it that there's an automatic connection? Why is it that you feel at peace? Just automatically. There's no bombardment of visuals, for example. Like right now, if you drive on one of the roads in Nairobi, there's billboards everywhere. There is so much visual stimuli. When you go to the outdoors, it just calms you down.
Right.
There's a decrease in visual stimuli. There's a decrease in audio stimuli.
Yeah.
And automatically you start to find yourself. And that's what I want to do. I want to teach people. I want people to feel what I feel when I'm out in the outdoors. I want people to really connect and say, and find themselves, because that's who we're made of earth. We're made of the core of Mother Nature.
Right.
It's a part of us. And so I want them to really get in touch with their soul when they're outside.
Very interesting. And I mean, in terms of your adrenaline sports,
yes.
How do you get rid of fear? I mean, I'm really bad. I fear heights. I fear going underwater.
Yeah.
I'm fine on ground, but so how does one get rid of that
So there's
fear?
a possibility that maybe something happened when you were a child.
Okay.
That caused that fear.
Right.
So then we sit through a session where I take you again. We use timeline therapy. And if timeline therapy doesn't work on this specific one, then there's other tools that I would use and help you gain that confidence so that you can jump out of a plane, for example.
Right. So when does somebody know that they need NLP?
Honestly, I think everybody at some level needs some kind of clearance. When people find themselves stuck in their life, stuck is a huge word. So when people find themselves stuck, I can't seem to be moving forward. That's the time to ask yourself, okay, wait, why am I not moving forward? Why am I going in circles? And at this point, it's a good time to reach out.
Okay.
When you start to doubt your own abilities, when you start to question whether, can I make money, or how can I guide my friend through this process? How can, when you start to question your confidence,
right,
you ask yourself, okay, maybe I need help with this anger management.
Can you point to some specific successes doing this with certain individuals?
Yes, I mean, I've had...
What kind of things have turned around?
So I had this young lady who came to me for coaching, and she had the biggest doubt in her own abilities. This is a talented young lady. She's so artsy, she's so creative, photography, videography, everything. So doubting her own abilities. And yet when I looked at her pictures, it was like, wow. So we went through a process to clear that. And now she has this unbelievable like drive. She's like, I can't wait to do this. I can't. And she goes out there, she takes it and she talks to people. And suddenly she's literally just turned over. And what we did here was just change how she looked at herself. We changed how we changed the programming in her mind.
Got it.
So that's a simple example I can.
Okay. And how many sessions do you need to have to make this effective?
It all depends on what people come to you with. Some people come to you with huge weight on their shoulders that they need to get rid of, and so you go through, a number of sessions with them. Some people come to you with, something that you get rid of in 1 or 2 sessions.
Right.
But for us as coaches, I don't want to keep you long term. That's not my goal. My goal is to help you find your solutions, because all the answers are within yourself. I'm just there to guide you by probing you and asking you the right questions. You come up with the answers and you put that into play immediately, and you're done.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing those insights on NLP. Just something else to talk about, which I've been introduced to recently, and both of us are going through. I think you're more advanced than me, which is the positive intelligence concept.
Yes.
We all look at the IQ and then emotional intelligence, but this is something which, what we understand, is combines the two and looks at positivity and the tools around that. So if anyone wants to look this up, it's someone by the name of Shirzad Sharmin who's running this concept. It's like 6 to 8 week course, and it teaches you a lot of discipline. First of all, about self-empowerment, and then the concept of removing the judge in you. They call the concept of removing the saboteurs and turning them to sages. So I'm still at early stages of doing this. Just talk a little bit about your experience on that.
So it's been an amazing journey. And I think what people don't realize, and what he brought to face, was the fact that we have a number of saboteurs that hold us back. The main one is the judge, as you mentioned, where we judge everything. We judge people, we judge the environment, we judge ourselves. And then you have the other saboteurs, like the stickler or the people pleaser, the one who's always saying yes to everything. The avoider, the hyperachiever. Right. And these saboteurs hold you back, and they create specific behaviors that you may not be aware of, but that slow you down. And so what he says in his program is, even though we have saboteurs, we also have the sage power, where if we activate the sage power, then it can overcome these behaviors. It allows us to look at these behaviors and not get caught up in the emotions. And it, because throughout our lives, I mean, if you look at the neurological pathways, it's when you program something over and over and over, you're creating a path. It's like a truck going on a dirt road. If that truck keeps driving on that road, eventually that road will be smooth, right? And the same way in our brain, that's what's happened. Now with the sage power, and again using mindfulness, for example, you now are programming this truck to take a different route. And if you keep taking the new route, which is the sage route, then you're now carving a new path. And it's possible. This is the beauty about it. It's actually possible to create this new path, this new road. Sure.
So Aleema, thank you for opening my eyes. I've personally been quite a skeptical person. I've never believed in meditation or yoga. But these new concepts like the PQ, like what you've described on NLP, it goes the way, for example, the PQ course is run. It's fantastic, with the app, and it's not like you have to sit through like boring 1-2 hour lectures or meditate 1 hour a day. They use technology very well, and it's very interactive.
Yes.
So basically. people need to be much more open to these kind of things, and it will help them. If they look at these things with a open pair of eyes, it can really revolutionize them. So it seems to be working for me, and I'm sure it will work for others as well if they take the time to look at some of these things.
Yes, that's key, to put a little bit of time and commit to it. It's because it's so easy to do and ingrain into your daily life.
Yes.
Because people are afraid, they're like, as soon as they think of meditation, just like you said, it's, oh my God, I need to carve out an hour in my life. And I don't have that kind of time.
Right.
But if you just give yourself that 2-minute or 3-minute break between your activities, before a meeting or in between meetings, maybe bathroom break, maybe just before you sit down and eat, just before, maybe on the drive home, your driver is driving home, you sit stuck in traffic. Are you going to sit there and go, oh my God, like this traffic? Or are you going to see the opportunity and say, hold on, let me just be in the moment and just enjoy the traffic.
While you're listening to Radio 44.
Whilst you're listening to Radio 44.
Great.
And it just changes, because think of the person who's so busy at work, who's driving in this crazy traffic, and then who gets home, who has to deal with 3 kids.
Right.
In that moment when he's got the break between work and home, if he's just grounding himself and coming and just being present and enjoying that moment, by the time he gets home, his mood is okay. He can handle 3 shouting kids.
Okay. Any last message to our listeners?
Yes. You mentioned earlier that right now with Zoom and technology, everyone's becoming very adaptable to being online.
Yes.
I think the key thing here is to also find an opportunity to unplug. Unplugging is so important right now, because you're now homeschooling, so your kids are online consistently. Because you can't interact with people on a face-to-face basis, you're now playing games online. You're talking to family online. So you're literally consistently
watching Netflix all the time.
Exactly. And so I would really appeal to people, unplug. And unplugging is not just putting your phone at night and going to bed.
Yes.
Even people sleep with their phones next to them, unfortunately.
Yes.
But unplugging is finding that 20 minutes, 30 minutes in the daytime to just be completely away from technology. An example is when you're eating, you don't need to be on the phone.
No.
Put your phone away. Sit with your family and enjoy this moment.
Okay.
This will just reduce your anxiety levels. Subconsciously, the work is happening.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. So the message is unplug yourself.
My pleasure, yes.
And look at mindfulness and
go outside. Well, obviously be safe.
Yes.
But find the opportunity to go out in nature.
Right.
Because that has so much healing for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you once again,
My
Aleema.
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.